Please patronize our sponsors who support the Guild and our mission to educate members and non-members to enjoy and enrich their woodworking skills and experiences. You Pick Hardwood Lumber, Beaver Industrial Supply, Rockler Woodworking and Hardware, and the W.D. Quinn Saw Company.
All right, welcome everybody to our May meeting. Thank you, thank you. Announcement, swap meet. We are going to have a swap meet, June 14th at Faust Park, right in front parking lot where we normally have it by the Whimsical Woods. If you had like big stuff for the swap meet and you want to see if there's any interest in it before you lug it up here, we can stick it on the forum or Facebook and say, hey, I'm going to have this here, there to sell. And maybe you can draw some interest that way. Holiday party in November for our November meeting. It's going to be upstairs. We'll have the big room. And we're planning a bunch of stuff. So be on the lookout. Just teasers. Also be on the lookout. The mentorship person has sent out emails with people who are mentors and your mentees, and the mentees with who's going to mentor you. We're still needing some mentors. We have a couple people that want to be mentored on turning, but we don't have anybody saying, yeah, I want to mentor turning. So if you can help out, let mentorship know that you can help out with a mentor. Who knows? It could be something just easy where the guy just wants to go, okay, how do I do this? Or now I'm trying to do this. How do I do this? And I know everybody's been seeing this, but starting July 1st, membership dues is going up. So be on the lookout. I've been getting a lot of people renewing before the time comes due. You know, there are a couple of them that have been three or 4 months early, but that's okay. And Superstar Weekend. Brad should be mic'd up.
I am. Let me stand over here.
Okay.
So I am now wearing Dan Linder's hat, and I had done a setup this weekend, maybe 12 years ago, a couple of them. So we are currently 321 days out from Superstar Weekend 2026. I know that because I check the AI on my phone. And you're probably thinking, why are we talking about this already? But we have somebody selected that the board agreed with, and we are excited, and we wanted to announce. So the date is going to be April the 11th of 2026. And we are excited about Roland Johnson, who's coming. So he has had quite a career as a woodworker. He's been involved with fine woodworking for about 30 years, writing articles, doing video series, tool reviews. He toured with the Wood Show. I saw him speak, and I think a couple of the board members over in Collinsville. Who heard him speak over in Collinsville? Nobody at the Wood Show? So
A couple classes from him too.
Yeah.
He's an amazing teacher. He's a
very good
guy.
teacher, down-to-earth guy from Minnesota. He's going to drive down. So the topics we discussed for the weekend it's going to center around the theme of finishing, but he's going to start by talking about how do you select the wood for a project? How do you learn to read grain better and anticipate what it's going to do with movement in your project build? Then move forward to how do you get a piece ready for finish? And he's going to talk about hand planing and maybe go into a little bit about restoration if you decide to buy or own used hand planes. He's going to talk about a couple new options. He's going to talk about scrapers, sandpaper, how you sharpen things, and how you get that project to be ready to accept the finish. And then the last part, he's going to spend quite a bit of time talking about the myriad of finishes that are available and what are the pros and cons and how do you use these finishes. And then if there's a little bit of time, he may discuss a couple new tools briefly, but that's kind of the outline that we covered. Cost is going to be pretty similar. It may be $60. That's what we're talking about. I think this year's was $50. That's not formalized. There'll be sign up later in the year. And I believe, Brian, can you think of anything else? Is that?
I think you've got it covered.
All right. Any questions? Anybody excited?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a great cheerleader.
Wrong way. All right. New members and our visitors, and I know we have a couple. Okay.
My name's Ron Farber, and I live in O'Fallon. And I've been woodworking for a number of years, but I can't say that I'm not good at it. So I'm looking for a little advice.
All right. Come to the right place because we give a lot of it.
My name's Todd. I am friend of Leo. He drugged me along tonight. I do a lot of woodworking on old metalworking equipment, so it's kind of a weird thing, but it works.
Yeah. All right. Welcome. All right. Upcoming classes. We had a little change here on some of the upcoming classes. The beginning scroll saw class, which was supposed to have been held earlier this month. So what we're going to do is, Corey and I changed it around. We're going to do the beginning in the first part of the day between 8 and noon, and at 12:30 we're going to do the advanced. As of right now, there is 1 opening up for the beginning, and there's 3 opening up for the advanced. There's only 1 person from the beginning right now going into the advanced. And so that's the classes coming up. And safety classes coming up June 5th. No. If you know about scroll saws and know how they operate, then you can do the advanced. We're going to be doing some, I wouldn't say specialized cutting, but I'm going to be teaching bevel cuts, and we're going to be making a tray that expands and 3D cutting and stuff like that. Upcoming tomorrow, 1st and 3rd Christmas toy build. If you want to come in, learn how to do toys, you want to make toys, you want to do anything, Wayne is always looking for help. It's a good fun time to sit around and you could work and talk. And beginning woodworking class is coming up June 22nd, Sunday, June 22nd. Bill, I got that right this month, didn't I? All right. And then the fundamentals are going to be starting the next fundamental class starting June 29th. July, because it starts with a J. And that's what I get for looking at the angle instead of not looking at my screen. It is June. All right. Hospital toys. We have delivered 145. It's easier if I just read like that. Delivered in April 145 toys. And so far this year, we've collected 482 until, Bob, how many do we get tonight?
We received 313 toys tonight.
Yay!
All right, my name is David Gronefeld, and I am the shop manager, but I also work at Faust Park. And last year, once it became county-wide knowledge that I was working with the Woodworkers Guild, then the summer camps at the recreation complexes wanted us to do a woodworking presentation for their summer camps. So last year we went to 3 summer camps. We did a 1-day presentation with different age groups. So they're usually divided up into 3 age groups, and we made the car, assembled the car toys with the youngest ones, and we put together a tool tote for the older two groups. And we did that at all three complexes. This year, there's two complexes that have requested the summer camps, and those are on June 12th and June 20th. And we're going to need people to assist us with that. Got several people that have already volunteered, but the more the merrier. And we'll need to also assemble those kits so that we have those kits ready. And Wayne has been very kind to go ahead and get started on that process. And so if anyone wants to help out with that, that would be great. And then there's also, I'd like to remind everybody about the art fair in August that we had last year. We had an art fair where members bring items for sale and the proceeds go to the guild. And that worked out very well last year. It was a big event, and we're again having it again this year. And I believe that is, just a second here, August 16th is what I want to say, but I want to double check so I don't screw it up. August 16th, that's a Saturday. So get those projects ready for the art fair, and hope some of you can help us with the summer camps. So thanks.
All right, thank you. Okay, also community outreach. Tom had wood outside earlier today, and he said he wasn't going to be here long. So if you got wood, you're good. If not, he's gone. he had to leave early. So, but what we had so far, I think we had one. I think I saw one table get turned in tonight. But so far this month, we've had 10 different tables or things for Home Sweet Home turned in. And that current year is not right. I don't know what happened when I copied that over from the newsletter, but so far we're at 408 all total stuff turned into Home Sweet Home, which are doing great. Next community thing is, Wayne, I got you another pretty picture this year. First and third Friday of each month, 10 to 2, Christmas toy program again. They build toys, goes to a bunch of different ones. Toys for Tots, and as of last year, he picked up a couple more. So his goal this year is 2,000 toys. So he needs help. We need help. Now, come up to question and answer time. Go ahead.
First question is, in the newsletter you said the primary reason for raising the dues was to generate revenue for a new shop.
Correct.
What's the goal as far as dollars to raise, and over what period of time?
Tom? Joe! Where'd Joe go? Joe can answer that more, our finance guy. We don't know right now, but we know we can't afford anything the way it is, right? Joe last month talked about the delta of the monies that we have as of, if we could try to move into a place right now, we're still going to be short a whole bunch of money.
So you're asking, so what we did is we took a look at what was out there. We came up ultimately with Quinn, and just for leasing, it was going to be $10 a square foot, and they have 3,300 square feet, so that's $33,000 per year for the lease. And then we estimated what would it take to, pay for electricity and other expenses, and we came up with another roughly $20,000. So that's what it looked like it would be per year. We don't have that coming in. We're not even close. In addition, there was a recurring or non-recurring. We estimated in the ballpark of $60,000 to $75,000. Our goal is to try to build a reserve, and that's where we said, hey, one of the things we could do is increase dues, which haven't happened in at least 5 years, and we would put that money toward the reserve for non-recurring, non-recurring. We still need to figure out how to manage that recurring. That's a big number, unless we doubled membership, So we need to look for other options that maybe we find a place that we could buy and put a mortgage on and then have a 10-year plan, but still lots of money. So we don't have those answers. What we did figure out in our effort was that we're not there yet. We won't be for a while, but there are things we can do to try to start growing ourselves in that direction.
So we're looking at 10 years for a new shop.
Do not know.
Because the newsletter said at current membership levels, okay?
The current
That
membership
could go
levels
up, that could go down.
would be a growth in the reserve from membership. That's what that was talking about.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in other words, bottom line, is we don't have a plan.
We don't have a solution.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the plan is to keep working it, try to find locations, keep digging. People, any realtors that see property and talk to us. We're open to look at a lot of options, but we also recognize that just like if I was gifted a brand new airplane, it's still going to cost me $1 billion or more to get it retrofitted. And if we find a building, we know there's a lot of costs to get it up to snuff. So yeah, it would require a new study if we found a new place. And, so
My second question is somewhat related to this as far as revenue generation. We know that Kansas City makes a lot of money with their outreach programs and people coming in with projects and the guild doing work for them and charging, okay? Were we not supposed to develop a committee or something where someone came with a project and to evaluate the feasibility and the cost and whether we were going to do it or not? Because the membership keeps getting these emails, not keeps getting, periodically from someone who wants to cut a barrel in half, like the one we got today. And it's just if somebody wants to pick that up. In November, one of those was sent out. And I thought it was kind of interesting. I followed up on it. No one asked me if I followed up on it. I contacted the person, contracted with them, put about 40 to 60 hours into their project and got paid very well for it. I got paid. Bill didn't make anything.
The problem with that is we're a 501c3 organization. We can only take in a certain amount of money. It is, and I don't remember if it was 8% or 10% of the money that we generate from dues, right? So, Joe, how much actual money do we get from dues a year?
In ballpark of $20,000.
$20,000. So we can only make 8% of that. That's Kansas City pays taxes.
How much have we made in the last year on those programs?
Say that again.
How much money has the guild made in the last year on those kind of
We
programs?
had one commission project last fiscal year, and we brought in about $3,500, I think. Yeah, and then, but since then we have not attempted to do any additional commission projects.
Yeah. All right. So my first question is, Hal needs somebody to help with the audio visual stuff before the meetings coming up, starting in what, a month? Yep. So if you can get here a little bit earlier and help Hal out, he would really appreciate that. Next up, show and tell. So if you have show and tell items, come on up, get mic'd up.
I had never made a dining room type chair before. Made a lot of other furniture, but not that. Had made chairs that did not have a trapezoidal seat. So all the mortise and tenon were 90 degrees. With the trapezoidal seat means you've got to start making angled tenons or angled mortises. The plans that I bought from McLaughlin had both in them, and I converted those all to just angled tenons because I didn't, my mortise won't turn it, cut at an angle. I started this project by going to UPIC and St. Charles Hardwood looking for some 8/4 red oak. UPIC wanted $3 a board foot more for it. So I bought it at St. Charles, and I was looking for an 8-foot board, which would have made my legs. All they had was a 14-foot board, and they said I had, if they would cut it, but I had to leave 8 feet. So I didn't have enough. So I bought the whole 14-foot board, and it made both chairs. So just cut up into smaller pieces. The finish is just shellac. I did fill the pores, and originally I wasn't going to do that. I was just going to shellac it, but I ran a test, and the wood that was just shellacked, the pores looked much darker than this, but when I filled them, it came out with a much more even color. So it was more work, but happy that I did it. The seats are carved out, and I carved those by hand using chisels, a little bit of router work, and some of those little bitty planes that you use for making a violin, which is still sitting half finished on in my shop. Not half finished, it's not that far along. We actually have 2 oak chairs in our breakfast room that have bent curved backs that my wife bought, and these are going to replace those. So if anybody's looking for some curved back oak chairs, we're going to have some available.
Very nice.
Questions? Thank you. Thank you.
I'm Keith Lassant, and I made a trivet with a scroll saw. It's going to be a Christmas present. I've started making stuff now because it always takes a while to get everything done. This is out of a piece of chinkapin oak that I had from a project from church. And so I planed it down, and it's just oiled, an oil finish on it.
How piercings.
How do you get oil into all those little pockets? Paintbrush?
Paintbrush.
I put mine in a metal pan and dunk it. And then just hang it up, let it dry.
Well, I very
Liberally?
liberally brushed it on,
Yeah.
and then, as you say, hung it up and let it dry for
Yeah.
a while, let it soak in.
How many hours it took? Did you just remember?
5 or 6. It didn't take too long, but it's one of those things that I could work for maybe an hour on it, and then you start getting cross-eyed, so you walk away and you come back.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
I'm Ron Farber. I just signed up tonight, so I don't know anything about your organization here, and I'm hoping that I gain a little bit of expertise by working with you guys. This is a wren house that I built I'm getting old and lazy, and I like one-day projects. So this appeared to be a one-day project until I got into it. But anyway, it was kind of my own design, and fairly easy to clean out. One screw holds it in. I found that all of my kids and grandkids, they all wanted one. So I made some jigs. Part of the jig involved the center hole. So I got a center hole in both ends. Of course, this, as soon as the squirrels eat the hole out, well, you just punch this out, cover that hole, and you got a new one.
So it's not a duplex.
Right. It's made of cedar. A friend of mine acquired a bunch of raw cedar. It was rough sawn. It wasn't cured. And my first efforts kind of warped a little. But anyway, I let it dry, and then future ones came out a lot better. But anyway, it was a fun project. And I guess since the kids thought it was cute, well, I built about 10 or 11 of them.
So did the latter ones only take a day?
No. I do have one question. I put down on one of my interests is finishes. And I've used urethane finish on these, put them out in the yard, and they last about 2 years, and they need refinishing. I'm looking for somebody that can tell me what kind of finish will hold up outside, every summer for more than 3 or 4 years.
Spar varnish.
Spar varnish?
Spar varnish.
Okay.
But only on the outside.
Well, yeah. No, I don't do anything on the inside.
It still need to eventually be refinished,
Well, sure.
no matter what you use. But,
Yeah.
but marine spar varnish might give you 5 years.
Okay. I'll give that a shot.
And then all you have to do is rub it up, sand it, put another coat on. It's no big deal.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I made a barrister cabinet. I was going to bring it in one piece, but I decided I can't because I'm starting to use it already. I've been wanting to build one of these for a long time, but they're very interesting. I could make that thing 20 cabinets tall. Each one is individual. It's made out of cherry. And I put on a Danish oil walnut stain on it because I want it to be a little darker. But tongue and groove on the feet, mortise joints on the glass part. A lot of issues that I found out, but there are 6 different individual parts that I made out of it. So I'm going to make, I think I'm going to start making 2 more sets because as you can see, I collect miniature liquor bottles, and I'm outgrowing that cabinet already. So I've been collecting them for years. So need more. And being a cabinet maker, it's kind of fun that you can do that. So any questions? Yes, sir.
Do the doors go up and in?
Yes, sir. A lot of router work, a lot of jigs, not a lot of screws, more glue than anything. The only thing that was screwed were the sides to the bottoms. The top has 2 grooves, the bottom has 1, and then you have plywood on top of that. And I use cherry plywood, so it's hard to, I wish I photographed it in stages because I think it would have been more interesting to show that way, but I just went to it and didn't. So
Put that one on the next one and then give us a presentation on it.
okay,
Okay.
that'd be fun. I'd enjoy that.
That'd be
So-
interesting because it looks like a really lot of nice work done in that.
Thank you. It was fun.
Except the bottles are empty.
No,
No.
no. I've got.
Bring them too, and they will be.
Okay, this isn't woodworking, but I own 1,500 miniature liquor bottles.
Wow.
So there,
More cabinets.
I've got a room that I made. And I should have photographed it, but I didn't. So I got a room that it's before our basement that it's just full of bottles, and then I've got 6 other cabinets. So
You said these are individual.
yes,
How did you attach one to the other?
they are just
Stacked.
by
Are they-
gravity.
They have little detents that lock them in? Or?
Nope, it's the bottom board, and then on the top, there's one board on the top. I guess it's showed this way. And then on the bottom, there's 2 that interlock.
It's a tongue and groove.
Tongue and groove, there you, yeah.
You've got a tongue on the bottom of the cabinet and a groove in the top. And the piece just sets on.
Thank you.
I got it set up.
Did you make them?
No, I didn't. I did repair them. I did rebuild parts of them.
It was really fun to build, so.
What kind of glue did you use?
Tybon, just regular waterproof. Yeah, yeah,
Probably
Is it 2 or 3?
2, yeah.
3 would be better.
I used 2.
Yeah. Two is what is.
2 is partially waterproof.
Well, being inside, I
Yeah.
didn't think it was.
2 is water resistant.
I've never used hide glue, so I was a little leery on it. So anybody, it's a pain. That's what I thought. So
It's nice in that if you use dowel work with hide glue, you can pull the dowel out after you put it in. You can't do that with Teflon.
right.
So it takes more time, but it gives you a lot of open time for setup and straightening.
I just did a lot of jigs. I mean, per tongue, per groove, I had jigs for it. I had to build a box, so when I glued the sides on, it was square each one. Trying to get it out was kind of fun, but
But you're gonna build so many, that makes good sense.
oh yeah. I mean, again, the first one was like, second one got easier and easier, and then I started doing more repetition of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
For Christmas, my wife found, happened to go through something on Pinterest or something and noticed this horse carousel somebody was illustrating, and she suggested I build it for one of our grandchildren. And so I got to credit the wooden engineering, sold on Etsy, and there's a YouTube connection or internet address. Go to the next slide, please. When I first got this idea from my wife, being a mechanical engineer, I always think I can do more than what I can really do. It's a pride issue, I think. So I immediately set out to just start making my own bevel gear, rather crudely, and I really wasn't trying to take a lot of time. I used some cheap, standard half-inch plywood that I had available. It just was just concepting this, and I found it was a little more challenging than I thought it was going to be. Because they come together at a 90 degree, you really need a beveled gear, which means they're not straight up and down on the sides of those gears, they're tapered. It worked, and this is my crude example, and that convinced me to spend $18 for the pattern, so I'm glad I did that. Next slide, please. This is just some of the pieces. I like scroll saw work, so again, the gear, they had this design. I only made a couple of modifications to it. The concept is fairly simple, and you'll see as we go through. There's a rod with a ball on the end of it that travels along and goes up these ramps. It really only goes in one direction, and of course that's a problem when you're giving it to a 2-year-old. but it's pretty robust. Anyway, it slides up the ramp to make the horse go up, and then of course when it goes past, it drops back down. The scroll saw work was a little challenging because I was trying to match the wood colors. I really didn't try too hard on the species. The plywood is birch, Baltic birch, just for durability of the gear. And actually, I've never bought Baltic birch before, and now I've got a little bit to play with. But next slide, please. One concept that they had was they just had some little feet on the bottom of it, and I didn't like that for stability. Plus, it didn't really give you much to hang on to, so I just used a couple of extra pieces of birch plywood and carved them out like you see here at the lower left of that picture. And that seems to give you a place to put your hand, the one hand that you're holding it with while you're cranking it on the other. The slots at the upper end of the horse ended up being my only injury. I've never injured myself on a scroll saw ever. It's not something that really ever came to mind too much. But because those little round dowels were so small, and because I didn't previously cut the slot, and I was trying to use the scroll saw to make that slot, and I was using some reverse tooth blades, there's occasionally some uppick on that, and it jerked it out of my hand and pulled my hand in there and nicked my finger. Nothing serious, fortunately. The slots at the top of the shafts are to keep the horse from just turning around. By virtue of having the slot, it allows it to just stay going forward. Next slide, please. So here's a little video, if we can do that. I think this is a video. So I simply used a 1/4 inch dowel with a large head on it and made my own bushing out of a larger dowel. And so you can see that the piece that you're holding on, thank you, good zoom in there. By virtue of having that now, that offers like a bushing and it rotates very easily. Is there any questions?
So you're going to make a bigger diameter one with more horses?
I have 5 grandchildren, so we have to make one that they can ride. No, I have no interest in making it. I have no interest really in making it larger, although my wife is into card making, and she had several people over when it was just about finished, and instantly I had 3 or 4 people wanting a copy of this. Anybody else? In the back.
Just a suggestion, if you're building something like that, use hardwood dowels. Use as much hardwood in there as you can, because regular dowels will wear on you. And I built something like that. By the time I got it built, all adjusted, all the holes in the dowels were wallowed out. It didn't work anymore. So use good quality wood.
Great, thank you.
Who again was your source on Etsy?
Wooden Engineering is the name. I don't know if they're from China or where they're from.
Oh, and his handmade store. I found it.
Yeah. Anybody else? Well, thank you very much.
Well, thanks.
All right, thank you. Up next is our presentation. Matt Wallace. Come on up.
Well, howdy, everybody. I'm Matt Wallace. I joined the guild last year, kind of late. I am not a woodworker. Really, I can make rectangular shaped like boards. A square seems to be a little bit beyond me right now, but I aspire someday to be able to make a good square, and then, you know, if I'm lucky, join something together. But right now, I'm a sawyer. And so tonight's presentation is just kind of how I go about it. You know, it's the end product my end product is what you guys start with. And so this is really kind of my version of, and I'm a small operator, just a one-man shop. And so, this is how I go about it. And I both mill and then I operate a kiln as well. So I have a turbo saw, which is a little unusual. This thing came out of New Zealand, but it's a pivoting head circular saw. So you really index the saw to the log and then you dissect it. It's quite different than a band mill. I think you could probably do almost everything with a band mill that you can do with this, but it just, from what I've seen, not commonly done. Here's a bit of a close-up to the machine. And get some of the wording came out a little odd there, but the machine trolleys left and right. On this beam right here, it goes up and down, and the head travels down that beam. So up, down, left, right. And then the blade pivots. There's the blade right there. It pivots from horizontal to vertical. And so really, the beauty of the machine is that you can focus on milling the log such that you enhance the grain pattern within the board. So my goal generally is that the grain is contained within the four faces of the board. It doesn't run out any face at which direction. So, are we doing something here?
Go ahead.
Okay. It came in a big box, roughly 1,500 pounds. At the time, I did not own a skid steer, but my neighbor, and everybody needs a neighbor with a skid steer. Screw the pool, a skid steer is much better. It takes a lot of expertise to put it together. I'm mechanically somewhat inclined. I'm an electrical engineer, geological engineer by background. Those two, my daughter there is a mechanical engineer, her husband's a mechanical engineer, and true to the mechanical engineering breed, they threw away the instructions and had at it. There was a lot of precision involved in this. It's hard to see, but that's a laser. We originally set up the beam to be, dead straight and crowned to accommodate some sag in the beam when you have the head over it. So there it is, completed. It fits in my garage nicely that way, but that's not the way I operate. I have to operate, going out the door. One thing, I bought the machine I built the garage without thinking about this machine, and it doesn't fit through the door, so you have to crab through it, which is, in a one-man operation, that's hard. It drives the head by itself, through a capstan winch, so it hydraulically operated. So this is, all the way towards the operator end. I push that handle forward, and it walks itself towards the end of the beam as it saws. I have a video here sooner or later. So you can control the height of the beam and hence the location of the blade through this handle right here, this crank right there that elevates it. And I've got a gauge staff here, so I know how far I'm dropping the head. So when I start to dimension the boards, I pay very close attention to this staff and then the horizontal one. Blades are interesting. This kind of was one of the things that drove me to a circular mill. Band mills, you hit a piece of metal and it's dead. You're going to swap that out. There's, $75 or whatever a big band mill blade costs. Mine I just sharpen for the most part. And this is how you sharpen it. There's a jig there, and that's a diamond wheel, and it takes about, I'd say 2 to 3 seconds to put a clean face on that. And then you switch over to the next one. These are shanks, and they get rotated into the blade with a manly bit of force, I'll have to say. So I don't have a bench heavy enough to stay on the ground when I rotate that in, but it can be done. This is a set of blades after I hit a very significant wad of barbed wire fence. I think if I just cut through a couple of strands, I wouldn't even know it, but I had a ball of it and it tore them up. So that was a replacement. Those shanks right there are about $75, but that's in 5 years of milling, I've gone through 3 sets of shanks. So pretty economical in total. Oh, here's the video. I'm just showing the back part of the machine, and I'm well into the log here. And I've already flattened it off, and now I'm just taking boards off the side. So, nope, just one blade. You'll watch. Right now the blade's vertical. I'm just off screen now. I've switched it. I'm switching it back to horizontally. And now I'm going to make a cut. And then watch it rotate. It's going to hit a mechanism here to release the blade, pivots. Now I'm setting up to move the next board over. That board's cut free. It's just standing there. You'll see me move it. I've indexed over another 5/4 for the next width. And now I'm going to come ahead. And there's board number 2. What's that? No, that's white oak and 7 inches. 22, about. The metric boys made it so. Just short of a quarter inch. So I make a lot of sawdust. You can see my edge of my pile. In a day of milling, I'll have 3 skid steer bucket loads of sawdust. And there's board number 2. I own my own now. There's a story behind that. So, all right, there's maximum. I can mill 8-inch tall boards in a single cut. As a single slab, I could mill 50 some inches wide. And I can show you some pictures of these in just a second. So now I'm cutting off this next board. I think I might be close to the clearing off the top of the log. Yeah, now I'm just doing cut slices just to remove the back side of the log. That's all flat sawn, sapwood, and bark. So that goes into the firewood pile, which you can see right there. I've been milling. This is probably the back half of 2 days of milling right there of waste. Doesn't really get wasted. I burn fire, and all my neighbors love me for that too. So. I have 5 acres, and it's weed control. But it's actually pretty nice sawdust for the most part. Now I'm just flattening that surface a little bit, and then I'll get set up for some more cuts. And that's about all you need to show in the video, I think. So. Okay. So that's how it operates. And this is, I think, a really good example. I'm slow. A band mill guy could probably beat me board foot-wise, maybe half again as much as I do in a day. And I would say pretty easily. But in order to get the boards, the quality that I'm looking for, I have to index the machine to the log. And so I use a set of plumb bobs to line up the saw to the heart of the tree. I do the same thing to the other end, and I will move the log so that I get it adjusted just about perfectly. And then I have to make sure that if the heart is dropping on the log, I will compensate that through that. And here's part of the reason why. This is another white oak. This is walnut. This is a white oak log, but you can see what I'm doing is I've milled off board here. I'm wasting out the heartwood, and I've got another board right there set up to get cut. So heartwood's bad, and so I'll take that section out and then this one out, and so then I'll have no heartwood in the boards. Pith, yes, I'm sorry. Here's a cherry, and now I've milled off the top of it and then flipped it. And then I'm gonna, on this setup, this will be waste here. I really couldn't get boards in here, but I could get boards all through here, and then these two big boards right here, and I would leave a slab at the bottom. That's kind of my strategy on that. Now, the way this will mill out, this will be flat sawn here. It'll be rift, quarter, 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 rift, flat. And that's, so the grain patterns will show up that way. This is a good picture of how, this is a cherry log. And you can see I've milled off this quarter round of the log. I've flattened the log, and now I'm ready to set up to take boards. And cherry is one of the few woods that I will leave this much sapwood in it because it turns out a lot of people like that. Sometimes I'll mill a log with no sapwood, but oftentimes people are asking for it. So, this is a picture of walnut and white oak. And so here's, again, I've milled off the top of the log flat, and now I'm coming in and just taking off boards all the way from left to right. And this is a good example. This is white oak. You can see the quarter and quarter. Now, at band mill, I think, you can set up to do quarter. You're going to end up moving the log quite a bit. I will get probably 60% of the log will be somewhere between, maybe even a little bit higher, between quarter and rift. But almost even the flat sawn stuff will be straight grain. So all straight grain runs end to end, end to end, end to end, end to end. So that's how I go about doing it. And this is kind of what it looks like. That's walnut, white oak, and cherry over there. I didn't have a good picture of cherry that I've run. This is through the joiner. So you can see the grain pattern. That's really my motivation for milling this way. Beautiful boards and some pretty interesting stuff. This is walnut on the left and right. I had a friend who's a professional bamboo fly rod maker, and he wanted, I saved a root, as the roots came into the buttstock, this is the transition wood in there, so it's really marbled and highly figured, but he wanted that, so I milled that up for him as well. So it can do a pretty damn big log. My skid steer is about 3,000 pounds lift capacity, so you can get an idea. It's a fairly sizable machine. I started without one, and found out that I use blocks and tackles for his mechanical engineer friend over there. Much like the Egyptians did, but I figured after a while. That's what I realized. They were using slave labor, and they really didn't care whether anybody got hurt. You talked about an injury. I work injury-free, but I got injured. And this is the sort of business that you can't tolerate any mishaps. But I did have one, not with the saw, but with a giant cant hook that was in a walnut log with a swell in it. It rolled back on me, and the cant hook whipped out of my hands and hit me in the noggin. I was wearing a hard hat, but it still left a huge mark. Marks are supposed to be hid from your wife because she'll take your toys away. In this case, I couldn't, but she did say you need something else, and that's where that skid steer came from. Bless her for that. Slabs, band mills can produce a lot of slabs, and they do a good job at that. I can only produce one per log because I have to mill off the top, flip it over, and then I mill down to the thickness. But what I do is, it's very pretty stuff. This is ash here. That is 47 inches wide, 60 inches long, and I don't know, 4 inches thick. And so thickness doesn't matter to me. I can any thickness, and this is cherry here. I can do beams and posts. This is really unusual. I do a lot of walnut, cherry, white oak, which I think is really kind of special. But I show up. A guy showed up with 25 logs, and I milled posts for him. And it seemed like everybody that drove by the house wanted cedar. And I was like, I've just been milling walnut. Nobody wants walnut. Why the cedar? But they love. It smelled nice. It looks pretty. And ultimately, I end up with a stack of boards getting ready to go into the kiln. That's my clueless bird dog, and there's a chipmunk here, and they are arch enemies. So this plays out, I don't know how many times, but chipmunk wins every time. So the kiln. I didn't start out with a kiln, but when I started looking at kind of the economics, if you're just selling green wood or air-dried wood, you're going to only sell it for about half of what you do kiln-dried. So, and it turns out because, well, my engineer friend will know this. Engineers are not boring and uninteresting people. We just find things that are particularly boring very interesting. So it's kind of weird, but so that's where kiln operation is. The kiln itself it looks like a humble abode, but it's not. The bottom of it has to be super rigid. So it's a torsion box. This is the bottom of it without the skin on it, and everything in here is structurally tied together, and then it gets glued and put together. So I had to build it upside down, flip it, and then put another skin on it. And then there are 64 sheets of 4x8 material of one type or another in an 8x12 structure. So you can see how much material went into it. And specific type materials. And then it gets coated with a waterproof coating. That turns out to be the stuff you put on top of flat roofs. So that worked. Electronics, this is an industrial process control system made by Nile. This is outside the kiln. This is the compressor and part of the air moving unit inside the compressor. That's a dry bulb, wet bulb apparatus to control humidity in there. So you're operating to drive down the humidity into the kiln on a schedule. So the wood loses the water in a very precise schedule. I monitor moisture a couple of different ways. One of them is with a meter. I have a lignomat meter. It has a set of, I can drive in and test the middle of a slab, down to about 2 inches moisture on the inside. In the kiln drying process, I set probes into the boards, a select group of boards. Here's some of the probes. So I drill those holes out, and then at a precise separation, then wire it up. And then those wires come out of the kiln. In practice, this is kind of what it looks like on a day-to-day basis. This is the 2 clients. I'm doing their walnut. It started at over, almost 80% moisture content. You wouldn't believe how much water is inside of wood, green wood. In fact, some of this walnut, when I stood it up on edge, there was a puddle under a couple of the boards. That's how much water can be in there. So you can see I'm day 4. I know which date I started, and I just keep number of days, day 4, day 5, and I watch the moisture drop. Here I manage dry bulb, wet bulb, and the temperature of the wood. And because I'm an engineer, you need belt and suspenders, so I also cut a sample board. I do coupons here. I kiln dry, I oven dry the sample boards, and then I calculate the moisture of each sample board based on the oven dry calculations. It's a lot of math. And then I pull those sample boards out and weigh those. I have a lab grade scale, and I weigh them, and then I watch the moisture content throughout the kiln process. And well, that didn't show up very well. This is actually, I run a spreadsheet behind all that that's doing a lot of math, and then there's some graphs. Yeah, there's a graph, a bar graph anyway. So kiln run data. So that's kind of it. I'm 5 years into this. This is my retirement gig. And I would just say all the equipment that I bought, I'm pretty pleased with it. I do it over again. Whether I go with a band mill, I don't know. I'm really more interested in quality than production, so perhaps that's still what I would do. I like the kiln operation. It's very meticulous, and there's some thermodynamics, physics that are going on there that still befuddle me, but I still enjoy doing it. Am I making some money? Yeah, I'm making some money, but I'm not. Riches will elude me. It's just so. But it is cool. It's fun. So there you go. That's my. Any questions? No questions?
I have.
Oh, sure.
Are those inserts the same as what they use on the big,
Foley mill?
Yeah, no, well, any of the big mills, like 5-foot blades and
Yeah.
like that. So those are the same.
Same shank.
Yeah.
Same deal. They just have more of them. Yes, sir. Okay.
So you said you got a slab on the bottom, and you had a wide ash slab. Did you cut half of it from one side and go to the other side?
Imagine a round log. I mill off the top however you want it. In this case, I milled off 5x5s for the guy. That's what he wanted. And so I had a stack of 5x5s off the top. I got to the right spot in the log where I wanted to have ultimately would be the bottom of the slab. I use my skid steer, I pick it up, I roll it over, and now I got it flat on the bottom, and I mill off the top. Then, I didn't talk about this in detail, but I have another very large slab. At the end of the day, I'll take that very large slab. It's 8-inch thick red oak log that's been milled flat on both sides. I skim cut that with the saw, so I index the saw to that slab. Then I take the ash slab that I was just talking about, I put it on top, I skim that top face, I take that one off, flip it, put it back on, skim it again. Now I'm within a 1/16 of an inch across that slab, every which way. Left, right, up, down. But, a band guy, he'd be eating a bologna sandwich an hour before I even finished. So yeah, but I like what I do. So I can. It's hard to find a band mill that big, but yes, sir.
How do you get that heavy wet wood in that long kiln with kind of the small?
It sucks. Okay, you picked up on something very precise here. A set of doors that opened on the front would be better, but I didn't think I could build a set of doors that big and seal. And so I opted to go an end load. But I have to load every board by hand. Now the kiln is away from the house. It's away from my stacks. People have burned places down with kilns, so I just didn't want that to happen. So I have to either carry or truck, move it in with my pickup truck and then slide them in. It's a chore, but so far I can do it. Got to have guns, man.
Stickering it in the kiln.
Oh, absolutely.
So what keeps when you're pushing it in? What keeps
You're not pushing, you're picking it up. Come on.
You have to.
Yeah.
Or your stickers will roll.
They'll roll, and you'll cuss. You're not supposed to cuss.
Is there enough room for you to get on
Yes,
the end?
if you're skinny. Yes, sir.
Are you a retail operation, a commercial operation?
I sell wholesale and retail. Eureka. So, yes, my mechanical engineer friend.
moving, does it just hold itself under its own weight?
Yes. Well, in the pictures, you would see there's bunks underneath.
Well, they look like just supports. They look like supports underneath it.
Yeah, they're notched, and you put a 2,000-pound log there. It's not going. But now I'm wedging everything, and that's what takes a lot of the time. I can mill a log faster than I can almost set it and get it aligned. To be honest with you, to align it, there's a temptation to just say, "Oh, screw it," I'll just mill it the way it is. But I just can't do that. I mean, so I align it.
How do you get your logs transported or what have you?
It comes a lot of different ways. I get my logs. I have 2 friends that have property that wanted it logged, but the foresters wouldn't come in. It's not enough. They want tractor trailer rigs loads. So I take, I will cut. I've worked with them to cut down the logs. We get them on trailers and we move them in. So usually something in the 3,000 class. Monday, Tuesday, I'm moving in 2 maple logs that'll weigh about 3,000 pounds each. So these will be huge. And then followed right back behind that with walnut logs that are about that big around. So
I noticed you had one when you cut slabs. Can you ask for or request high-figured wood like crotch?
Yeah, I do that. If I had burl, I could cut it any which way you want. But oftentimes, if I can see that the log is going to have a lot of figure, I will cut 4 figure. And it just depends. So I get people who want figure and people who don't want figure. It's just, yeah. The other downside, like a band mill, usually has some sort of hydraulics to clamp it in place. Like you've noticed, mine is just sitting there. So light things will move. In fact, like those cedar logs, I had a hell of a time milling cedar posts that were 8x8s because the sawmill will pick it up if you go too fast, especially on the last cut where there's not much of the log, the beam attached to the log. So I had to go through a lot of special effort to make sure that it didn't pick it up. So little things I can't do. A bandsaw guy does great with that sort of thing. So there's a trade-off. I guess. Oh.
When you come out of the kiln, is your product sold, or do you move it into a conditioned air?
It goes into my garage, and then it gets sold. So it goes back to equilibrium. So if you buy from me, you got to put it in your house for a while. But I'm very, very, very careful to drive out all the moisture. All the cell moisture is all out of it. So if it rehydrates, it's just in the fiber, and that'll go away if you put it in your house. And
Do you have business cards tonight?
no. I might have some in my truck. I have one in my wallet, I think, but that's about it. So, yeah, it's 314-603-1941. 1941. So, no. It's starting to look like work when you sit in front of a computer, damn it. I just spent 32 years doing that nonsense. I can't do it anymore. Yes, sir.
Yeah, do you have, so if somebody had a project they were building and they had a certain idea with them, can you do you have logs laying on your property they could say, could I?
Yes, right now I do. I don't know, right now if you had, I don't know what you wanted to do with white oak, but I got enough white oak to build, everything you could possibly imagine. I did not have a website, and I wasn't selling very much, and then I started a marketplace ad, and now I can't keep up with that sort of thing. And I do wholesale, so that takes a big chunk, but I still got a very large amount of, I say a large amount, 600 board feet of kiln dried cherry that's there, and probably half that much now of walnut, which walnut sells very quickly at my, and it varies from 5, let's say, to up to, if I had one that was complete quarter with all the fleck in it, that'd be a 10. And I will tell you, I mill almost always just 5 quarter, but if I get, sometimes I'll just mill 8 quarter, and that's just easier for me to deal with if I just mill out bigger boards. Red oak will almost get milled to 10 quarter, and that's being air dried, and then I'll dry that sooner or later. What's that?
The cost?
I don't know. I haven't sold any, so I guess it's so. Here's what I know. You're buying wood from a guy out of a garage. You're not going to an air-conditioned space. You're not dealing with St. Charles hardwood that's got 10,000 board feet for you to pick through. I've looked at their prices. I looked at their quality. So you're not gonna pay what you're paying there, but you're gonna lose some opportunity for whatever they have. There's a huge advantage for going to them. And there's advantages going to me. So I didn't really want to make this a sales pitch, but
we want you to. We want to hear.
Yeah, I know, but I'm a little embarrassed by some of that. So
we all need to eat.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
The fellow with the cedar request, was that just to build a pole barn, or?
Oh no, that was for a small cottage. He had 200 feet of porch on his small cottage.
You didn't kill and dry that,
No. Yeah, that was just. Right, and that's interesting. He's an excavator. He wanted the posts. He had 16 white oak logs that he let me have, and a set of pallet forks, and I milled his post for him. So that was a square deal.
Yeah.
So.
That cedar probably cuts pretty easy.
It does, but it's too light. I mean, it was harder for me to cut those than it would be for a white oak. Easy. It was much harder because the darn things wanted to move, and once you move a log that's indexed to a machine, then you got to re-index it. That's no fun. Yeah. More cussing that you're not supposed to do. Yes, sir.
Of people that's got trees that went down in their yard and looking for somebody to cut them up. Would you be interested in us sending you their information?
Sure. It's amazing how I get logs. It just comes from all over. People have different projects. Sometimes I will horse trade, this log for that one. I'm going to do those 2 giant maples for a guy. And then he's giving me an enormous walnut tree. And I'm like, well, that's a good deal for me. And he's bringing it to me. So, that'll work. There'll be 300-400 board feet of walnut that'll come out of a very large mature tree. So it should be good.
You pick up too, right?
I do, but I don't like it. Normally it's lift equipment that's the big deal. And you can go back to our Egyptian slave conversation earlier, and that's what it'll start to look like. There'll be a block, a tackle, posts, some cussing that you're not supposed to do again.
You mentioned hitting some barbed wire in one of your logs.
Say that?
You mentioned hitting some barbed
Yes, yes.
wire. Do you have a concern of getting trees from unknown sources?
I do. I kind of look at them, and if I see staining at the back end, then I start to talk about, well, if I hit metal, I'll ask you to replace, pay for the shanks. So I have a metal detector, but it's terrible. I mean, it works, but I guess I don't have a lot of confidence in it. And that's something, I bought a lot of equipment over the time. I think I need to spend a little bit more money on a metal detector, to be honest with you. But yeah, that is a concern. And it is a safety concern. If you run into a spike with a circular saw, That's a whole lot different than a band mill. Band mill, you just like ruin the blade and stop. This thing will, you could explode one of those shanks. And that, depending on where it is when it does that.
You mentioned you have a planer. How big do you plane boards or
I
for yourself?
I sell surface two sides when I'm wholesaling. Well, first, most everything in the shop is surface two sides. I have a Grizzly long bed. It's 83 inch, 8 inch wide, which I tell you, from a equipment review, I was a little hesitant to buy Grizzly, but that is a beautiful piece of equipment. I have precision test gear, and it is dead flat. It's perfect. Now I got a Grizzly planer, 15.5 inch helical head. Gearbox leaks, and so I'm not really happy with that. And it's not. But it's what I got right now. Yes, sir. What power is the sawmill? 30 horsepower Honda 4-cycle. And all the gearboxes are 70 horsepower rated. So it's a beefy machine. There's reason why I bought it is that there's nothing on it that if it breaks, I don't have to go back to the OE. I can get my McMaster car catalog out of it, and I can order virtually everything that's on that machine. So I don't have to go back to the guy in New Zealand, who, by the way, has actually been really good to deal with. I mean, I can call him up. I don't know when the guy sleeps, and he just sends stuff if you need it. Yes, sir?
Would you be willing to do a Saturday?
Showing for a bunch of members who would love to go out and see it work.
Yeah, it's actually really cool. I mean, every time I operate, I was like, damn, this is neat.
From where everybody's looking around here, everybody here thinks it's neat too.
Yeah, it's unusual, but it produces a beautiful, beautiful board.
Because I think that would be a great Saturday afternoon get together for the group.
Yeah, it's meant to be mobile. I have a mobility kit with it, but I just don't, that's another thing I really don't want to do.
Yeah.
So, all right. Is that it? Well, thanks for
having
having
me.
me.
Thank you.